Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Evolving Man Summit, the summit for a wholehearted and grounded masculinity. Today, my guest is Jozef Frucek, founder of Fighting Monkey. Jozef, thank you for taking the time for chatting with me.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
So, my intention for bringing some movement teachers such as you to this summit that is, first of all, around the exploration of masculinity, is that I found how crucial embodiment, becoming more connected to the body, is in the development for men. I'm guessing for everyone, but for men in discovering who they really are and learning to discern between what are the expectations that are being put onto them and what is really true to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to hear more about what is it that you're really teaching with Fighting Monkey?
This question comes over and over again, and I think Fighting Monkey was designed not to be understood. So I don't want a clear definition. It's for people from 2 years old till 125 years old. Maybe ranging with the tasks that are very simple until tasks that are impossible to solve. So that's what I would kind of define the frame of what Fighting Monkey would be, if there would be any frame. I hope this practice just offers a good platform of exploration, nothing more, nothing less. It's just a name for having really fun in our life and doing things we love with people we love. So it has a certain aspect of seriousness, but in the same time, unless it offers a better quality of life, then it wouldn't make any sense of doing it.
Mm-hmm. So what is the practice that the platform is for?
Yeah, like if you introduce me as a teacher of movement, I don't think movement is as important as many other aspects. What is the main umbrella for our research is communication. Because we talk about masculinity, my very important mentor in my life was a woman. And she was saying, we cannot not communicate. And I think it was such an important sentence to me, because since then, many people ask me, what would be the opposite of communication? And I would ask the students to give me an answer. And at the end, we came up with a very beautiful definition. And the antonym of communication would be non-existent. So we always have to communicate. And I believe that quality of communication, in whatever form, artistic form, form of sport, form of game, relations we create, is probably the most important.
So the platform you're offering is a way to learn to communicate?
I would say yes. It's a platform within which we can learn or discover how we could establish a better communication with ourselves or with the others. We would offer different formats within which we could see how we could improve the way where we are talking, where we are moving, where we are interacting with other people. It doesn't matter if it would be sport or if it would be dance or if it would be painting or writing.
I'm guessing that or at least when I think of communication, the first form that comes up is verbal, or it's like the most dominant one. Is that a big part of what you're teaching, or are you teaching to, for people to explore other domains that are maybe less explored?
If it comes to communication, the communication happens mostly over 95% of communication happens through eyes, through visual cues. Even if we hear someone talking, we take much more ideas about what they are talking about or how we position ourselves to what they are saying through the nonverbal cues, which is the way they position themselves, the tone of their voice, the cadence, the speech, articulation. This tells us much more about what they are saying than the actual words that they're using. So I believe, as it is in fighting monkey research, it's all about all the invisible rather than the visible aspects of communication, things that we do not pay attention to, but create essential principles of communication.
I imagine that's hard to find words for these like invisible forms.
You know, we don't have to be we are too much of westernized, over scientific society and culture. We put too much emphasis on explanation and knowing. And I believe that aspect of not knowing is so much more important. As you know, as your knowledge grows, you start to understand, and you do not know so much more. When the circle you occupied is small, you think you know so much because also the surface of what you do not know is so little. But as you growing through your life and meeting many interesting people, your knowledge grows, the circle grows. And so the surface of the circle grows. And so you start to become conscious about how many things you do not know. When I started to work on athletic leg and started to work on squatting or health of the joints, you know, when I did like first 10,000 repetitions, I thought I know. Now in my current age, I've done maybe over 2 millions of different squattings practice. And I realized so much I do not know. And so what can be offered is not knowledge, but the quality of communication, the quality of relation to our bodies, to our actions that we do in our lives, in our everyday lives, ordinary lives, which is so much more important than collecting in your pocket some skills and drills that have very little effect on our aging and has very little effect on the way we communicate and the world we create or co-create.
And I'm guessing that our relationship to, or how open we are to not knowing, is a big part of that.
For sure, you know, like when you have that attitude of not knowing, you're much more open to novelties, because there is something very dangerous about knowing. Knowing is like a spiral. You always start to choose things that you know more and more, and so the world is closing down instead of opening up. And we like to create a small world because that makes feels as masters. That makes feels us very confident. We have very limited space of failure. No one wants to fail too much in their life. So if you are open to failure, if you're open to discover novelties, it means you have an amazing energetical surplus. It means that you allow change happen in you. You can recognize. So these are very important aspects in our life. And if you talk about masculinity, then I think feeling vulnerable or feeling exposed is extremely important in our learning process as we are aging, getting old, and that we will eventually one day.
Yeah, it totally makes sense what you're saying, and it brings up for me the question, why is it that we try to avoid failing so much?
It's normal, you know, like we all want to succeed in our life. It's just so natural. It's very unnatural to be able to expose yourself and to fail to learn something new. I think you need a lot of safety. I see it in our kids. If the kids have a very harmonic environment and they feel supported, they don't bother to fail. They have no problem. If they are abused, if they are constantly in kind of survival mode, they have much more difficulties, much more challenging for them to be exposed, because already their security in life is so vulnerable. So they will perceive the world as threatening because they don't have enough support around them. And I've seen it in my kids, and I've seen it in many other kids that I could meet in my life. And we are somehow grown-up kids until we die. You know, our prefrontal cortex is growing and getting more conscious decisions, but that quality of being lost like a child, not knowing what's happening, and trying to make sense out of very complicated world is part of our everyday life till very late age.
So how do you create a container that feels safe for people to allow themselves to fail?
Everyone has to do it by themselves. What you cannot teach anything to anyone. That's very important aspect. This and it passes to all different domains of life. What you can offer though is circumstances within which people can realize for themselves and can find out for themselves what they want, how they want to do it, how they want to learn, or what would be the opportunity to unlearn in order to learn something new. So we are offering each other offering each other a space within which that can happen, right?
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you can say about other particular qualities that you bring into this space that you create?
There are thousands of different options, really. Um, I could be talking about how we teach people moving, how we teach them coordination, how we teach them rhythm. We always say the same story. We used to work with Linda in academia for many years, and what we've been doing, we were always splitting the group in two parts. One group was taught by me, another group was taught by Linda, and what we did with one group is that we always explained what they're gonna be learning. We explain them how they're going to be learning, in which kind of steps, and what is the final result. And that group seemed to be learning very fast because you offer them a particular method, you breaking down for them, you teach them exactly how it should be done because you have the prior experience. So you as a teacher, you offer the best possible method of how to do it. The other group, on the other hand, didn't get this prior explanation. They were just facing the situation within which they had to find out by themselves how to solve the problem they've seen in front of them, learning a certain particular rhythm, learning certain particular physical four-dimensional appearance. And this group was learning so much slower, but as they were learning, they were choosing many different learning strategies. They had to talk between each other so much more. So sometimes one student would breaking it into pieces. Other student would be learning is in one totality. Other student would be talking him or herself through it, finding a kind of verbal explanation. And so within already the first lesson, there was a huge diversity in learning process. While the first group, where everything was explained, would be kind of homogeneous. So everyone would be learning the way the teacher told them how to learn it, how fast it should be learned, what is the progression, etc. And so when you offer a new problem, when you offer a new task, the first group is still waiting for an explanation of the teacher. They are very much teacher or student master dependent. While the second group has already much more tools to solve a new challenging situations in their life. And so the learning curve in the beginning of the second group is very steep. They have a lot of troubles because you don't explain them anything. You even do not tell them what is it really for. But later on, they gain so much of independence. They dare so much more. They find much more interpretations. They find more variation and variabilities. And so this is what we applied in our total way of learning in Fighting Monkey. We do not prescribe linear programs. We give a certain challenging situation, and the challenging situations will be solved collectively, because me and Linda, we cannot possess all the knowledge. We possess knowledge as a group, as a creative entity that is made of many individuals. That way, when many brains are involved, they find many more variabilities in solving the troubles. While if it's concentrated towards one person, there seems to be a lot of failure and a lot of errors in solving, because we always think someone is going to give us a solution for something. But this is not the way our life is evolving every day. It's like we are living our day and thinking that tomorrow we will know exactly what happens. We never know what happens. We're just so badly trying to keep the control over the life. So we would even like to know what the weather will be like. We would like to know what is the program of it, when is going to be your TV show on the program. You want to know when the bus is leaving. And if something changes, you have big difficulties to find a solution to the new obstacle. And me with Linda, we kind of created that that promise that we will be training our people as our kids. And we want our kids to be independent, not dependent on us. We want that they go and explore the world by themselves. Only what we offer is our presence and mm, our presence and our availability. If something happens, that we are there and we would be there to support. They explore something, they come back and they share with us what they explored, instead of us telling them what they should be exploring and how they should be exploring it and what should be the final result of their exploration. Because that means it wasn't an exploration. It means that has been a path that was already walked through many people before. And I am so much more interested in explorers. I'm interested in people that went to landscapes that we never before visited, because where is the excitement for my life, for what I'm doing. And I want to be only surrounded by those people. I don't want to be surrounded by robots, right? So that's why I do not like to define what fighting monkeys, because that will drive a lot of interesting people from many diverse fields to try to find out what these people are doing there, what's going on. And those they fear, they will never come. And that's very good, because it's not for everyone. We always think that what we do should be liked by everyone, but we do not understand that's not the point. The point is you do what you have to do. If someone likes it, great. If someone doesn't like it, it's also great. And we need to find that freedom in us. Otherwise, our knowledge, our wish to live will corrupt, because we always think we need to please someone. And I have too many beautiful things to work on in my life than worrying about who is liking what I do or not liking what I do, right?
Yeah, and for me, it's at the base of constant evolution to this, what you were calling, this exploring, this constant awareness of there's always the unknown, and I'm always in touch with it, which is where growth happens, which is where where I expand into something that I didn't even know was possible before.
Exactly. Yeah, very nice.
And also how you were describing the container that you create, and giving this example of the two groups. The group that gets all the instructions, they reach a certain goal more quickly, while the other group, it sounded to me like they're more involved in the process of learning how to learn.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I think that's very important, because everyone has to understand that we meet people, but we do not understand who they are. They have very specific context in which they live. And if I'm looking at a rainbow, and you are looking at a rainbow, as the Zen Buddhists, they say, it's two different rainbows. We just see things differently. Through our perception, our prior experience, we bring into existence very different things. We are in the same environment, but we see and hear a lot of different things. Our worlds might not meet, even if we are in the same room. And that's very difficult for many people to understand. And they do not want that variability, because when you don't have that variability, when you have that variability, you have loss of control over the other person. And we so badly want to control other people, because when you control them, you have power. You can manipulate. I can imagine it's very addictive when you have students that are dependent on you because you're the only one who possesses the information. What I have seen so much is that people would hide what they know and where they know it from. Very different from what I learned in academic field, where you have an obligation to show where the information comes from and how did you articulate it in, and how it evolved. So I think there is a lot of dishonesty, and I think we need to think more ethically on how we are sharing informations, and doing this kind of source monitoring, because also we learn constantly from many people. Unless you make a note what you learned from whom. After a while, you will forget that you learned it from someone, and you will absorb it as your own. And over the time, you say, this is mine. If you say, this is mine, I have created it. I used to say there are only two options. One thing is that you're stupid, or second thing is that you're a liar. Stupid means that, yes, you forgot, you didn't make enough of feedbacking on where you've been learning from. And liars, when you do not want to tell other people when the things they come from, because you want to be the creator. And that just reminds me in a history when big dictators come and they burn the books of previous knowledge, right? Because they want to start the time from them. So the zero would start from that particular person on. So I'm creating Fighting Monkey, and I would say I have created a movement. I have created this and that exercise, which I would say, okay, I burn everything and every great generation of great masters and teachers from last thousands of years. And I just came, and out of nowhere, I have created a world. I have created a universe. So this is something that I would like to oppose in my life. Not oppose, I would like to be very conscious about it. So I would not fall into that trap.
So how do you do that? Is it about naming where you learned and like keeping track of the
Source
source?
monitoring. In academical world, it's called source monitoring. So it means let's say you have a meeting and you are exploring options of how you're going to create your new practice, how you're going to create a new application, how you're going to, it can be whatever, your new product. And someone is making notes, what comes from where and how the whole thing was evolving. So when you do your research, right? I was doing my PhD on voice and communication. Well, basically you read something, you make a note, you know the note, then you make a citation, you make your comment, and slowly the material is expanding. And so you have a very clear feedback of where things they came from and how they've been evolving. So the process is really very simple. And no one has to be afraid naming where the things they came from, because it doesn't mean it takes any value from you. It just shows you how with which material you've been working on. So this is again being able to be exposed and not worrying about it, right? Because you cannot know everything, but we like to give that pretendence that yes, I know, but no, and I do not know, and I do not want to know everything. That's why it's better if the knowledge is shared in a larger networks. When I create a memory in my brain of something, I want that many overlapping neural networks will contain that memory. Because if one part of my brain dies when I'm 70 years old and I get a head stroke, a part of my brain will die. But the other parts of the brain that have been collaborating on creating those particular memories will be still active and alive. So my brain will more likely find a pathway around the damaged area and recreate at least partially the memories or motor skills or whatever that would be. So the intention in our practice would be, if my whole brain gets activated, many different networks, the whole universe, all the galaxies in my brain, they are working together. Of course, something is more dominating than another, but I want everything being involved. Every little cell in my body knows that I'm enjoying something, and so there will be, the memory is going to be stored in a much larger network. And so when I'm working with my students and I'm sharing the knowledge, then it is stored in their brains as well. So when my brain dies, when I will pass away, there are plenty of great students, they can carry on because they understand how to carry it and how to evolve it. And that's so liberating, because when you possess something, when you hold something, it feels like it's pulling me down all the time. I feel heavy. Of course, I have herniated lower back if I carry everything by myself, right? So I rather share that responsibility with many other people.
And it's a beautiful way of externalizing, what is going on inside the brain with the different neural connections, and externalizing it and seeing networks of people working the same way.
Because it is the same way. We need to understand that the internal biology, everything that we talk about neuroplasticity or negative side of neuroplasticity, we talk about DNA and how this cocktail that we have and how environment can trigger an expression in a gene or whatever. This is exactly what is happening in society. This is what is happening in the landscape. We are just very poor observational capacities in our life. We don't want to know. We always leave the knowledge of other people. If someone says that, um, I just simplify. If you read something, you need more experience. You should be reading less. Or if you read something, go and try to test it if it's really true for yourself. Don't take it for granted. I mean, many people, they talk very intelligently, but they practice themselves very few.
And how does that affect our observational skills when we don't practice?
As I said, we leave the knowledge of other people. And number one, before everything else, is the practice, your own practice, your own involvement with life. We had just now a private training in California. We were talking a little bit about Chinese medicine. And, you know, you have few options how to learn it. The contemporary way of learning medicine is that you come somewhere to university and you get a pile of books, very beautifully line up informations about the particular topic. And so you can sit in your chair and learn everything and memorize it and then try it on someone. But what if we jump some 100 years back, or maybe just a few decades back, and we say, oh, there's not centralized knowledge. Maybe I want to learn something about medicine. So maybe I have to pack my backpack and go to north of Europe, because I know there is someone who works very well with the spine. And as you go there, as you travel there, you arrive to that place, you need to search for that person. And so you meet many people from the region, and you meet that landscape within which that particular medical approach was born. And you maybe meet that person, and so you start to understand the larger context of evolvement of that practice. And then you have to go to another master, and then masters maybe in China, and he's living somewhere underneath the big mountains of Himalaya, you know, this kind of magical place. And you get there and you see there is cold, and there's very cold, there is very little amount of resources. And so there is another type of medicine that was born because of the particular and environmental influence, and because of that particular cocktail of variabilities that environment offered, right? And then you go to another place because you heard there is some great master in south of, I don't know, Australia. And you go there and you cannot find that person. And you're searching, and maybe you find someone whom you didn't meant to meet that will become your great masters. So this kind of way of traveling and looking and searching and piling by yourself the information is much longer and much more difficult, but so much more profound in learning. What if you know about meridians in the book, energetical meridians? If you cannot see energetical meridians of a sea or of a tree, so I would always give that example with my students. I say, okay, there's this, we always position, you know, the body, and then we see these meridians there, or chakras or whatever. So look at the tree and explain me where is the main meridian in the tree that holds the tree together. Or where is the current in the sea and how the current is moving in the sea. If you cannot see those things in nature, how you could be possibly seeing them in your own body? If you cannot move your soul, how possibly you could heal anyone that is around you? So this is so much more important than learning any theoretical knowledge. So if you have a practical experience and good observation and good sensitivity, then maybe you can add some theoretical knowledge to it. Before that, it's really formal, and it usually does not lead to any profound knowledge, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right. Because it's not embedded and embodied.
Yeah, because even our speech is based on our practical experience. The way we sculpt the world, the way we sculpt the language, the way we articulate the words, the words we choose. You know, the language was born out of documenting our experience. It wasn't out of need of communication. We were communicating differently. We were communicating through the way we altered the environment, the way we position ourselves to travel. And the language came in as documenting, as recording our knowledge. Now it seems like we do much more through talking and less through practical experience. Even when we meet so-called movers, these are people that usually do exercises, but they do not move much, because moving is dangerous. Moving is complicated. Moving is exposing. I travel, and then someone called himself a mover. So if someone is a mover, then just ask them to, oh, please go to the space and move. And what you get is usually some combos, some phrases that they got somewhere and they have it now, and it's a collection of different moves. But this is not what movement is about.
What is it about? You knew I would ask that.
I stopped myself before I finished that sentence. Yeah, I don't know what is it about. Everyone has to figure it out for himself.
Mm. It was like you were consciously creating this hook for me to. This is, yeah, I really enjoy hearing your perspective, and it's like it creates confusion in a positive way, in a in a challenging way. And like, it's challenging me in the way that I perceive the world, in hearing you perceiving it in a very different way. And yeah, that's funny, because that's what I wanted to come back to. When you were talking about communication, I heard you say that one of the basic element, or at least an important element for you, was acknowledging that our perception differs in such ways, and we don't know exactly how it differs.
Wait a second. Dimitris, patrz. Nie bój się, patrz. Just wait a second. I'm just with my son, which is also very good part of our discussion and should not be ignored when we talk about masculinity, because I really found out myself who I am much better when I became a father. And I have my beautiful 3 kids, and the kids, they really make you understand your mortality. Before you have the kids, you think you are immortal, invincible. But with the kids, you understand your limitations. And also, kids, what's the Dimitris?
Hello. Hello.
No, they really beautifully mirror your weaknesses, and they can also help you improve so much. So I don't know what I would be without them. They my kids, they just improved everything. They improved everything I had. It's just a million times better. Without them, I would be so empty. So this is the best thing that can happen to you. And it's not necessarily, do not have to be really your kids. If the circumstances do not offer it, it's not really a problem. Like we have a homeostasis. Now we have better explanation for homeostasis. We have allostasis. Allos is someone else's. You build up your balance between you and someone else, between you and an environment. Then is also alloparenting. Alloparenting is that you are able to take care of the kids of someone else with a good empathy and good spirit. So yes, you can have your own kid or kids of someone else. That really doesn't matter, but they should be around. What I also believe, what made me more man in my life, was seeing and being more with old people and being more with the young children. That's where I understood a lot of things. When I was younger, I don't know how young, I felt, old people are smelly. I thought, old people, something is wrong about them. They don't have teeth, and their skin is like an old paper, and I did not understand. They move too slow. They cannot do things. But once in my life, I saw my father. He was just somewhere. We were close to a hospice where old people were, and there was just a lonely lonely grandma sitting on the bench. And my father, because she was alone, my father came to her and he suddenly touched her on the back and he says, "How are you?" And he massaged her feet, and suddenly something happened to her eyes. There was another spark. She said, "What is this man doing? I don't know that man. He should not be caring about me." But he really genuinely cared. He really asked her, "How are you?" And this touch on her hands, and he it was so intimate, what he done to that woman. And and then the perception of oldness or youngness pretty much changed for the rest of my life. That acceptance that we will and we are aging all the time, and we will be capable of less and less. And I mean, we have to be only lucky that if in our old age we still remember everything, what we were, and what our kids could become, right?
Mm. That sounds like being exposed to a lot of different realities, which again is kind of being exposed to things that you don't know yet, and which triggers the response of expansion to integrate. And the other thing is community.
Yeah, of course. We are coming from hunting families, and there was never talk about masculinity or what does it mean being a man. The life was so hard, at least even for a previous generation of me, my father. The life was so hard that, I mean, they were happy to make it through. So that was there was no time to think about what man means. Like, if you're able to support, if you're able to survive each winter that came, and kind of complete the tasks that were necessary to be done, you've been pretty much a hero, right? And that's most probably in all traditional societies, because you live very fulfilled life. You don't, certain questions, they do not even come to you. Everything somehow naturally is there because you do all the great stuff in your life. Like, you are not lost. You don't look for a purpose or anything. The purpose is in an everyday action, in everyday necessities. But sometimes when we have too much of easiness, we lose. I have the feeling we lose ourselves. We lose the purpose. We don't know. We speculate, but in a wrong way.
Yeah, like we get lost in searching for answers where we cannot find them.
Yeah, maybe.
So then I guess it doesn't make sense for me to ask you what it means for you to be a man.
Oh, you can ask it. I really don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I think masculinity is all the men and women I met in my life, and they were inspiring for me in many different ways. Many great women were in my life, and therefore I could become a better man. These female figures are so extremely important. Like my as I mentioned, my teacher of communication, Lyudmila Makhacheva, I spent with that woman 10 years of my really productive part of my life. I did my research with her. I spent my university time with her, my postgraduate studies. We keep contact now for almost 20 years, and I'm gonna see her again next week. And that was the figure. Then yes, she made me more man, in a sense that she made me understood how softness is extremely important in communication, how I can say to people I don't know, how I can be lost in front of my students if necessary, how being gentle is so much important. I also work with quite good warriors, I believe, in my life, and those real warriors that I met are extremely gentle people because they pass through such a hard times. No one would have a really aggressive attitude. No one who really passed through difficult, tough times, that survived something major, would be a tough person. It usually would be something that would ask for peace, that would ask for more gentleness, that would ask for more softness. in opposition to people that they had their easier life, they would become more aggressive, more trying to be more dominant, trying to have an attitude, or trying to be pretend that they are strong while we are so weak. And that goes to the overall idea of movement and anti-fragile and all this. You know, we are very fragile. We are extremely fragile. And we are abusing our bodies every single day for the purpose of, for the reach of looking good or perform really well when we are young. With little knowledge and little vision that behind that hill, when we reach certain age, there is waiting for us a great misery. Because, you know, you do something as a young man, but the problems in your hips or your knees or your lower back, they will come later on in your life. It's sometimes unbearable. I was teaching a national team, Danish judo and Austrian judo national team now in the summer. And there was a kind of convention. There was like over 150 judokas there. And when I was giving a lecture about some practices, I kind of criticized very much that as soon as they have put it on their gi, they started to walk a little bit stronger. And I said to them, no, this is not how what judo is. Judo is being soft. Judo is being subtle. Judo is walking with a great biomechanical grace. It's not about becoming stiff. And they were laughing, and I think it made certain impact on them, because I said, yes, look at your old masters. Who is walking properly and who had a hip replacement? Because it's very easy to make certain choices when you are young, but you will pay a great price for it when you are later on in your age.
Yeah, there's something about humility in what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, we are so aggressive because we always know. Everyone knows. Everyone gives you a certain program. Everyone knows how to bring you in a certain level in 12 weeks. Everyone knows everything, and it's so funny. I just always say, and I'm sitting in home with Linda, I say, how everyone knows everything? I know nothing. How we can know so much? And I think there's a certain amount of arrogance in it. Because what I believe in, that from this top of my hair that I'm losing right now, on top of that, to bottom of my feet here, that thing in between is something, it's a mystery. It's not even a body. It's not even an organism. It can be everything and it can be a nothing. It's not designed for anything in particular, because we are not a machine. We can do many different things. There are many purposes, but we like this predominant kind of philosophical idea that body is a machine, and so we can train the parts and we put it together and we isolate it and then it works fine. And no, we are not a machine. Machine is to dump vibration and being specifically designed for certain action. Human body doesn't dump one vibration, because if a human body would be dumping vibration like a machine, then you will not be able to hear me right now, because it is my vocals that they vibrate, and then surrounding cavities, they amplify the vibration, and then my voice can be traveling and can reach other people. So yes, no, I'm not a machine. I'm more like an instrument. And if you're walking and you're dumping your vibration, then most probably you create an herniation in your back, and maybe you will have a destroyed knees. So
what do you mean by
like
dumping vibration?
You know, when they have a machine, it needs to dump vibration, so it cannot allow the vibration happen. So imagine you have an engine is like this, and then it takes the vibration. Well, then all the machine will fall apart. So it has to be static, has to be well. You know, like like you cannot have a steam machine and then the steam is escaping from somewhere, right? Or so all the parts they have to hold together. Otherwise, the screws they go apart. That human body is not a machine. You know, when Nietzsche said God is dead, that was somewhere where we started to maybe put more. No, it wasn't only Nietzsche. You know, like this image is already from Leonardo da Vinci, where, you know, like we have this kind of machinery inside ourselves, kind of influenced our image of what we are. But we are much more a landscape. We are much more an animal. We are much more. We should be using images that are closer to what we actually are, rather than a machine, because really it's very difficult to justify how a human body could be a machine.
And yet it's a very prevalent idea.
Yeah, because we like to use certain things in our language over and over again without really thinking what it means and which kind of effect it can have on our everyday life. Because of course, if you say to yourself, I'm a machine, well, if something is wrong in a machine, well, you just replace the part and then machine can go on. But that's not the way it works in our bodies, right? So well, at least that's my idea about it. I mean, if you really wish that your body is a machine, maybe it's also all right. That's why I said body can be anything for anyone. So I think we should give a freedom. But in my case, I'm thinking that I would like to use images that are much more close to really how we are built.
Mm. Mm. Could sense how there's so much processing happening within me, like trying to assimilate what you're saying, because it's challenging.
Well, you know, when we, like if you say the machine, or we say the body has an energy, we are really only borrowing. You breathe in and you breathe out. That's basically what it is. Because if you try to hold one of your joints, you will be in a serious trouble over a certain period of time. So it's a great amount of complexities that they work together. We are really a one animal. We cannot even say body and mind. There is only that one organism that has a blurred boundaries with the environment, and that all mixes together. So when you say who I am someone through other people. I am now who I am right now. I am something in between you and me, because we are creating a dialogue. So you provoke something in me and I provoke something in you. And so the boundaries are already being lost a little bit, right? So there is a kind of penetration through the skin, so to say, or the vibration of our voices, they go together, even if that might sound so esoteric, but that's just what it is.
Mm. It's in a very strong contrast what you're talking about to maybe the stability we would like our identity to have.
Sure. Yeah. Stability, identity. Yeah. Yeah. There's so ways the topic that entered in that. Yes, we need a certain amount of understanding of who we are, but again, not too defined, because that can create a lot of troubles at the end. But of course, we should not be everything, because then it's very difficult to create a direction in which we would like to start to walk through. Yes, that was a very good point.
Yeah, that's the balance to find.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Jozef, I would like to slowly come to an end with our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do so, how can people reach you if they want to get their mind blowing even more?
They can call me on my mobile phone, and I'm gonna tell it right now. Yeah, kidding. There are many opportunities. They can come to our workshops, or I think that's the best way. When we meet in person, that's really the most valuable dialogue. But there's also a website. There's also a YouTube channel. There's also social media where we try to share some ideas. So anything that would be helpful to them. I hope we are honest enough to share valuable information that people will have some benefits from. So this is what is our main purpose. So I think anyone who wants can find us.
Yeah, we'll put all the links on the interview.
Thank you.
So you don't have to name and spell them right now.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, Jozef, thank you so much for your time and for sharing.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you
Thank you very much, David.